Hello, welcome to Universities UK Innovation and Growth webcast. My name is Greg Wade.
And I'm Kevin Richardson, Higher Education Funding Council for England.
And today's webcast is about top tips for representatives on the local ESIF committees. Now, pretty much all the local ESIF committees have been established.
Yeah, all up and running now.
Yeah, and they bring together a whole range of stakeholders, including universities.
Yes.
And there is a particular challenge for LEP committees that have more than one university in their area, and the need for the representative to represent them. But could you start off with giving us a few general tips about engagement with the committees?
Okay, I think a really good place to start actually is something called the Code of Conduct and Partnership,
Right.
which is a piece of legislation which is part of the overall rules for the new ESIF programme. And although technically it doesn't apply to the local ESIF committees, I think it sets out some important principles and sort of cultures which are part of this whole process. So I think certainly anyone who's looking to represent the sector on that local committee needs to have a quick look at that document. And what it does, and I use the phrase representative, and that code of conduct sets out very clearly that these individuals are representatives. They're not there in individual capacity. They're not there to look after the interests of their particular university or institution. They've got a very different role to perform. And that requires particular ways of working. Now, universities often sit on committees representing each other for a wide range of different types of activities at different levels. And, a good university representative will have those skills and knowledges and the communication skills to be able to do that. But we'll need to think about the specific things about the ESIF programme and how might that be brought forward.
Yeah.
So I think a really good tip, and it applies to any type of representative function, but particularly for ESIF, the need to consult before meetings.
Yeah.
Now, I think email is actually a particularly weak form of communication in this regard, quite often because the communication can be quite detailed and quite technical. And it actually makes sense to get people around the table and have informal gatherings or formal committees or whatever, but the need to bring together all of the universities in a particular area on a regular basis to chat things through, on what do we agree most strongly? Where do we think there's some room for negotiation and that sort of function of collaborative leadership with the other partners? And where from time to time do we have really strong views and we're going to stand and position ourselves and explain to the partners why we feel strongly about some certain things. And to be honest, I don't think that can be done using email. No. I think that's a sit-down, discussitive process. Now, you could tag it on to another meeting because universities get together for a wide range of issues. You don't have to reinvent a new bureaucracy.
No.
But some sensible management, I think, is called for.
But likewise, different universities will have different links to the whole variety of stakeholders represented on the local committee, and coming together can help add strength to the role of universities in partnership with others.
Yes, and the consultation shouldn't just be amongst the sector. How best to meet with and work with different partners on different levels. Not just at the committee meetings, because most of the representation that needs to take place will actually be done outside the formal meetings, because the European programmes are managed in that way. Yes, the formal meetings need to happen every 6 weeks or whatever the time frame is, but a lot of it's done during the period, and sometimes by correspondence, sometimes by telephones. So really important to think it's not just about, can I just turn up and do the job? The answer is no, you can't. But to do that successfully, I think there's 2 or 3 things which need to happen. And I think this is where universities need, perhaps be a little bit strong. One is to ensure that there is a planned programme of meetings. So meetings aren't called at short notice, so you know when they're going to happen, so you can plan your work around it. Universities, I think, particularly for European programmes, need to ensure that the papers are circulated in good time. And I think the other partners around the table will share that concern as well. I can understand the reasons why sometimes government departments might circulate them late, because they've got lots of different pressures upon them. But as a general principle, being very clear that in order to represent their local partners, then they need good access in a sufficient time. The next thing to do is, and it's a difficult balancing act, but ensuring that where there is a need, or where the government departments suggest there's a need for confidentiality, providing a critical frame and a questioning approach. Do the documents really need to be confidential? Because, of course, the representative is in a slightly difficult position, having sight of some documents which then that person then can't share with their colleagues.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes there is a genuine reason why they're confidential. Sometimes it's because some people would prefer them just to remain outside of wider interest. Well, my recommendation is to continually question. As a principle, everything should be made available.
Yeah.
And as a representative, you should be circulating anything that you think is important to the people you're representing.
Yeah. Or else it's a challenge to fulfil that role.
Exactly. How on earth do you represent someone if you can't share those papers? And importantly, and whilst I said earlier, this work happens not just at the meetings but between meetings. Very importantly, immediately after the meeting, report back. Yeah. Because if you're seen to report back, I think your colleagues in your LEP area will build a belief that you actually are there to represent them, and you believe strongly in the communication.
Yeah. And it's developing regular, effective, good habits.
Yeah, exactly, and being religious about that.
Yeah.
I think the other sort of top tip would be to involve other universities on a routine basis and take whatever different opportunities come along. Quite often these local committees will establish task groups. Do you need to be on that? Or perhaps you could bring one of your colleagues in from a different university to do that work. Yeah. And of course, many LEP areas now are forming subgroups of LEP boards called innovation groups. Yeah. How can they be consulted and work with to bring forward that view? And finally, think about where the meetings are held and at what time of the day, and can they be accessible? Is there any reason why the meetings can't be open to observers from other universities who would wish to be there? If these types of meetings are held in local government, for instance, in almost every case, they're required to allow the public to attend. Yeah. So, there's no reason why more people can get involved in different ways at different times. And finally, if you're the named representative from your particular university and you find for whatever reason you can't attend a meeting, think twice about should you send one of your colleagues from your university, or would it not be best to involve another university as your alternate? Yeah. So I think these little things, little signals, management signals, which are particularly important, I think, for this programme. Yeah.
There's a real challenge for universities to get their act together in relation to these subcommittees.
Yeah. I mean, in most cases, it seems to be working well.
Yeah.
But I think it's a case of keeping that going.
Yeah.
Maintaining the sort of the awareness of representation, communication loops. Which brings us on, Greg. Of course, University UK represent the sector at the national level.
Yes.
Can you tell me what kind of representatives the sector will have on the national committee, and what you intend to do to try and stitch all of this together in some way?
Yeah, certainly, Kevin. I mean, we have one representative on the national committee, Professor Julian Crampton from the University of Brighton, but also we're nominating sector representatives to all the thematic subcommittees of the national committee, and all of those people still have the same representative requirement and function that HE reps have at the local level. So there's a duty on us to perform that role, but I think there's also a duty on us to make sure that there's an effective link between all three groups and that the channels of communication are very much open. We've got 2 working groups coming up soon, where I think almost half of the sector are attending either one of them.
If you can fit them in the room.
Indeed, yes. And so we're going to ask people about what are the most effective channels for communication. Yes. We have the LinkedIn group, which I think gets information around quite quickly. You tweet quite a lot, which gets to a good audience. But like you suggest about the local level, about getting into good regular habits, we need to identify good regular habits that link all 3 levels.
So from the top down, bottom up.
Yes, yes. So people at the local level aren't just relying on other sources of information about the national level, and that they feel that we've informed them as much as they need to be informed about what's going on.
Yeah, because one of the important differences this time around, of course, is the same rules apply across all of England.
Yes.
So if you've got a particular issue in your patch, someone else will be having that same issue somewhere else.
Yes, yes.
And I think that's one of the benefits of that national framework, I think.
Indeed. I think communication is a starting point, getting into those good habits. But as you say, people could learn an awful lot about what other people are doing in other LEP areas, and share ideas and share challenges. And there's a feedback loop back to UUK where we have the opportunities to raise those at a national level and hopefully resolve them for the good of all.
Okay, so it looks as if things are starting to move.
Yep, absolutely.
Good. So we look forward to hearing your plans for how, and building upon the views of the sector.
Yes.
To give them the communication that they need.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Greg.